Hi there, I'm Tom Tsao, Head of Global E-commerce at Atlassian. In this talk, we will explore what is Agile, where did it come from, and what are its benefits for building better SaaS products and services? And how do Atlassian teams actually put Agile into practice day to day? So let's get started. It is not the strongest that survives, nor the most intelligent, but the one most adaptable to change. Anyone who's developed software knows how true this is. Software development never goes to plan. Customer needs change, new competitive threats arise, market dynamics shift, technologies don't work the way that we expect, and our best engineers sometimes quit or get sick at the worst possible time. Things are always changing when you're building software. And change can be painful. Growth is painful. It can feel uncertain and uncomfortable. But nothing is as painful as staying stagnant and stuck where you are. I'd like to invite you on a journey of embracing change. Whether you're new to Agile or a seasoned expert, let's start at the beginning. So imagine it's February 2001 in Snowbird, Utah. These 17 deeply dissatisfied innovators gathered together to figure out a better way to develop software. They all felt that software development at the time was a slow and heavyweight process, largely driven by exhaustive documentation of requirements and a rigid process that did not adapt well to change once development started. They coined the term Agile because they felt it captured the essence of the adaptiveness and the responsiveness to change that is so important to effective software development. 2 days later, they published the Manifesto for Agile Software Development. It was a call to arms and a statement of their values. The document said, "We are uncovering better ways of developing software by doing it and helping others do it. Through this work, we have come to value individuals and interactions over processes and tools, working software over comprehensive documentation, customer collaboration over contract negotiation, and responding to change over following a plan." That is, while there is value in the items on the right, we value the items on the left more. They also came up with 12 principles behind the manifesto. I won't read them all, but here are a few of my favorites. Our highest priority is to satisfy the customer through early and continuous delivery of valuable software. Let's deliver working software frequently. Let's regularly reflect on how to become more effective, then tune and adjust accordingly. Let's welcome changing requirements for competitive advantage. Working software is the primary measure of progress. And my favorite, simplicity, the art of maximizing the amount of work not done, is essential. After 2 days, they all left Snowbird, and they really didn't know what to expect to come out of their meeting. However, 18 years later, we know that the rest is history. Agile is now a household term in the world of software development and has become a transformative force in our industry. In fact, a recent Forbes article stated, "Agile as a concept is finally coming of age as a philosophy and a way of thinking in lieu of being seen as a mere project management methodology." This article is actually uncovering a very common misconception about Agile. Many people believe the misconception that if they're doing Agile methodologies, that it makes them Agile. The truth is you can't just do Agile, you need to become Agile. It's not the same thing. For example, just going through the motions of religious rituals is not necessarily the same thing as being deeply spiritual. Likewise, if you're a fan of Star Wars like I am, you would appreciate that there's a huge difference between going through the motions of waving a lightsaber around versus being a true Jedi Master. Agile is truly a state of being, and it's never enough just to go through the mechanics of its practices, which is what a lot of people do, but they don't really understand what they're doing. So what's the secret if you really want to understand and embrace the Agile philosophy and way of being? One word, empiricism. Agile is founded on empiricism. Empiricism is the theory that all knowledge is derived from experience, from facts and observation. In an empirical environment, decisions are made and changed based on observation and evidence rather than adhering rigidly to a plan. Pilots, for example, use empiricism every day. Thank goodness. When they fly a plane and they see a storm up ahead, they don't continue with their original plan or itinerary. Of course, they will course correct and adjust their itinerary based on the observation of the environment around them. Likewise, empiricism is the foundation of Scrum, the most commonly practiced Agile framework. The three pillars of Scrum are transparency, inspection, and adaptation. Transparency means presenting facts as is. Inspection can be done for your product, processes, people, and practices. And adaptation is making changes based on your inspection. Ahmed Siki described it best. He's a well-known Agile thought leader, also known as Dr. Agile. He says, Agile is a growth mindset. It's a way of working grounded in a culture of learning. That means in an Agile environment, when I learn something, I incorporate that learning to change, improve, and grow. Incorporated learning is key to agility, and that's what enables you to adapt successfully to change. So let's recap. Agile is a growth mindset based on empiricism, described by the 4 values of the Agile Manifesto, defined by 12 principles, and manifested through a set of practices. The practices are like tools in a toolbox. You can use any number of them in any combination, and the practices you use can change over time, depending on your needs. You truly become agile when you embrace the mindset, values, and principles on the top to drive the agile practices below. This is what distinguishes you from just doing agile versus being agile. Okay, so what does it look like to bring agile to life? Let me share a couple case studies from 2 teams at Atlassian, Trello and Community. Let's start with the Trello Treehouse team. Here they were, very cold at a team offsite in New York. They were a team that went on an agile journey. Let me tell you their story. Not long ago, they were plagued with a bunch of pain points in the way that they worked. Maybe you can relate to some of these things. They did agile things like sprints, but still struggled to deliver on their commitments. They often found out mid-sprint that work wasn't truly ready for development, as there were a lot of complexities and dependencies to resolve. So this resulted in stalled work and caused a mad rush of work and rework at the end of the sprint. These are the symptoms of cowboy agile at play. You see, they were just going through the motions. Through a journey, they decided to truly embrace and become agile. First, they adopted Scrum, the most commonly practiced agile framework. I like to describe Scrum as 2-3-3-5. First, they crafted 2 definitions, a definition of ready and a definition of done. This gave the team a shared understanding of when work was truly ready for development, and then when work was considered done in a sprint. Just getting these definitions locked down can really help a development team become much more productive. Then they assigned the 3 roles of Scrum. First, the Scrum Master is responsible for coaching everyone to uphold the Scrum framework and values, and to serve the team by removing impediments. The Scrum Master is kind of like a Jedi Master, teaching everyone how to use the Force. Second, the product owner is accountable to business value and is empowered to set priorities for the team. Finally, of course, the development team is accountable to delivering. Then they adopted the 3 Scrum artifacts. These are the product backlog, which is a prioritized list of all the work that they need to do, the sprint backlog, which contains the tasks that the team plans to do each sprint, and the working increment of software, which is potentially shippable software that represents the value that the team aims to deliver through each sprint, given the Agile principle that working software is the primary measure of progress. This increment of software needs to be inspectable and confirmed as done at the end of each sprint. Finally, they embraced the 5 Scrum events: sprint planning, the daily Scrum meeting, the sprint itself, the sprint review, and the sprint retrospective, where they use transparency, inspection, and adaptation to improve the next sprint. So putting this all together, this is what their Agile development cycle looked like. And Scrum gave them a robust framework for planning, doing, and evolving their work based on empiricism. In addition, the team went to the Agile Practices Toolbox and leveraged other Agile practices in combination with the core Scrum framework. I'll dive into some of these practices now. One practice that the team focused on was to radiate information. This is all about fostering transparency, the first pillar of Scrum. Only with transparency can you then effectively adapt and inspect and adapt. The team started to radiate information through their sprint board. Their board looked something like this. It did a decent job of visualizing the development workflow, but design and anything pre-development was a black hole. So the team adapted by adding columns to their board to map out the pre-development workflow. This helped to make design work visible, and it exposed blockers that arose in earlier phases so that there wouldn't be any surprises or unnecessary delays when development started. This also helped the UX designers to feel like they were truly a part of the Scrum team, working side by side with the product owner and the development team. The team also started tracking their velocity, which showed how much work they accomplished each sprint. As a result, they were able to base their sprint commitments and capacity planning on real historical data, which made their estimates much more accurate and predictable. The team also started tracking their burn down chart, which showed how much work they were completing or burning down through each day of the sprint. It encouraged the team to make incremental progress every day, to deliver work each day of the sprint, rather than having it pile up into a huge bottleneck of work at the end. The team also adopted the daily Scrum meeting. They kept the time box to 15 minutes and focused on 3 questions. What did I do yesterday that helped the team meet the sprint goal? What will I do today to help the team meet the sprint goal? And do I see any impediment that prevents me or the team from meeting the sprint goal? This truly enabled the team to embody the transparency, inspection, and adaptation pillars of Scrum. Finally, the team also started to follow the lean principle of working in small units. In the past, the team would work in large batches and their sprint board looked like this. Their system of work had no flow. They had many dependencies and they had these large batches of piled up work that were easily stalled or blocked. They couldn't deliver value at a sustainable pace because they were so often impeded. So they adopted Agile user stories where they kept the scope of each one very small and bite-sized. This is a template user story card that they created in Trello. As part of their backlog refinement process, they wrote acceptance criteria and embedded the definition of ready directly in the user story card. So the team didn't allow work to be pulled into a sprint if it's too large and undefined. It has to first meet this agreed upon definition of ready. Now, at the point of development, all questions are answered and work is ready to be picked up immediately so they can avoid rework down the line. The team also adopted the definition of done, which was embedded directly in the user story card so that it was transparent. It gave the team a clear indicator of progress. So anytime in a sprint, you could look at a card and you knew exactly what tasks needed to be completed for the sprint to be done. The good news is that working in small, manageable units means that each piece of work has less complexity and risk. The team could work in flow, where work moves through the system unimpeded at a sustainable pace with great efficiency. Now this team is able to complete stories and deliver value incrementally even on day one, instead of creating a bottleneck at the end of a sprint. This is a great example of how Agile smooths out the productivity curve. With traditional waterfall development, the pattern of working is like the gray line with high peaks and low valleys of effort. For example, you might have a big release and need to work nights and weekends. After the release, there's a lull where work slows down. With Agile, you have a much more steady, predictable pace of productivity that's continuous. So your work pattern looks like the dark blue line. As teams get into this rhythm, they get better at continuous delivery of valuable software, and they avoid burnout while being much more productive. So, like the authors of the Agile Manifesto, the Trello Treehouse team sought to improve the way they work using Agile. They formed a culture of continuous improvement. Of course, they weren't perfect, but they made huge strides. Unlike before, the team consistently finished their sprints and delivered on their commitments. They're able to deliver real customer value faster in a sustainable and agile manner. This case study illustrates how Agile turns traditional software development upside down. Agile allows for increased flexibility in the actual work done. With traditional waterfall development on your left, your scope is fixed, but time and budget are flexible. This often means work takes longer and it costs more. With Agile on the right, it's completely flipped. Time, your sprint, and budget, your Scrum team, are fixed. You are essentially time boxed and budget boxed. But scope is flexible. We can adjust scope as needs change, so we can focus on delivering the most value quickly and adapt to changing conditions without going over budget or wasting time and resources. Okay, now let's switch gears and talk about the Atlassian Community Experience Team. The Community Experience Team is responsible for the Atlassian Community website. Just like the Trello team, the Community Experience Team uses the Scrum framework to deliver on their commitments. However, in this case study, I like to show how the community team combined Agile with the build, measure, learn loop to validate whether what they were building actually delivered value to their customers. You see, it's not enough for Agile to help you work more efficiently. Agile should also help make what you are building more effective so that it's truly valuable to customers. Eric Ries pioneered the idea of build, measure, learn in his book, The Lean Startup. It works as a perfect complement to the Agile development process. Here's how the build, measure, learn loop works. You start with an idea or hypothesis at the top. You build a minimum viable product and test it with real customers. You measure the results against your hypothesis, and then you look at the data, you learn from your results, and you decide what to do next. This loop starts with an idea or hypothesis that might deliver value to customers. There are a lot of ways to come up with good ideas. Some of the techniques that the community experience team uses are user testing and research, analyzing data of user behavior in your product or site, talking to customers and stakeholders, or just brainstorming with really smart people on the team. So the community experience team learned through stakeholder interviews that our internal customer support team was spending a lot of their time trying to understand more about the users who asked the questions being posted on the Atlassian community site. They need context to provide the best answers to users. In fact, we discovered that it took 6 clicks for our customer support team to check all available systems where customer data might exist. The pain point was that for our customer support folks, we're wasting valuable time just clicking around looking for data on the customer instead of answering their questions. The hypothesis was that fixing this pain point could improve the number and speed of high-quality responses to questions on community. After some design exploration, the team reviewed the idea with their stakeholders and refined the design through a few iterations until they had a solid MVP, a minimum viable product, for a feature named the User Insights card. The User's Insights card aggregated all the customer data that would have taken 6 clicks to find, all onto one convenient card. Now it's time to build the User Insights card. The team, of course, used Scrum to get the work done, and this helped them work more efficiently. Now we move to shipping the product, in this case, the User Insights card, to the community site. Here's the User Insights card that the customer support team sees when they come to the community site. As you can see, all the customer insights are conveniently summarized right on the card without the need to click around 6 different systems to hunt for them. Now we move to the part of the loop where we measure the data. When we measured the data, we learned that we saved our customer support engineers 360 hours per year with their User Insights card. They can answer a lot more questions with that time, which is the metric we were hoping to influence. Now we move to the learn part of the loop. Now that we had a new feature that our internal customer support engineers valued, we thought about what we'd learned and hypothesized that our end users could also benefit from similar functionality. So we talked to our external community advisory board, since they also answer questions on community, and they said yes, it would benefit them too. Because the community leaders have different needs than our internal customer support team, we iterated on the design and optimized the User Insights card for them. Learn, iterate, learn, iterate. By coupling this build, measure, learn loop with agile development, we deliver value quickly to customers, measure, learn, and iterate. And ultimately, that enables us to empirically validate that we are delivering real value to customers on a continuous basis. This case study is a great example of how Agile makes you not only more efficient, but also more effective. Okay, so let's summarize. Agile is a growth mindset. It's a way of working grounded in a culture of learning. Agile is a mindset based on empiricism, described by the 4 values of the Agile Manifesto, defined by 12 principles, and manifested through a toolbox of practices. You truly become agile when you embrace the mindset, values, and principles on the top to drive the agile practices below. So remember, it's about both doing and being agile. I like to wrap up with a quote from the great Mark Twain. Continuous improvement is better than delayed perfection. This is what agile is all about. We'll never arrive at a state of perfection in the way we work, but agile gives us a mindset to improve continuously. As we work better, our products improve and our customers benefit. Creating value leads to more value. So get started today. Thank you very much.